So I've been living here in Hirosaki for about 2.5 weeks now, and it has been a really good and blessed time. At the start of this week I finally got to move into my own room at the house, which was a real blessing, as much as I love the people here. Being in the middle of a heat wave, more on that a bit later, and stuck in a room with no air conditioning and 2 other guys in this heat, it wasn't the most pleasant and easy of sleeping experiences. But for now at least, I am in my room on my own, and I'm looking forward to moving into my own apartment on the 29th. It's an apartment I found very quickly within 2 days of getting here to Hirosaki. I looked at it a few days later. It's empty already, it's all ready to go, and then we got the paperwork signed and done, and I can move in on the 29th. And that's just the reality of living in Japan, is that these kind of official processes, they often take a long time. They like to do things properly and methodically and move them up the chain and all of that kind of thing, and things don't always happen as quickly as people like me might expect. But I am very grateful for getting the apartment as quickly and as easily as I've been able to, because it can actually be quite difficult for foreigners to find places to rent in Japan, because they often don't like renting to foreigners. There's a perception that they might not actually pay all they're supposed to, and they won't do all the legal things they're supposed to. Foreigners tend to be noisy and not understand Japanese values and manners, and might upset those in the rest of the apartment block. And even if you have your business do the rent for you, sometimes that can bring challenges as well. Some groups don't like renting to religious organisations and the like. But fortunately, the apartment's all done, the paperwork's done, and I can move in on the 29th, and I am really looking forward to that. At the moment, it is holiday season, and so actually my kind of starting ministry and starting life here in Japan has been a really soft landing. It's been a very slow burn start. The pastor of the church here in Hirosaki, which I'm working at, they're on holiday at the moment, and so someone else is here. There's a lot of transition of shorter term workers leaving and coming, and Japanese language lessons for me won't start until next Monday. And so it's been a soft landing, but reflecting on that in the past few days and having the time to reflect has actually been really good. I've really realised just how much I was exhausted from the past 3 years. First of all, there was all of COVID, and every Church of England minister that I know just became absolutely exhausted, really shattered by the experience in the UK of lockdown and getting used to that, and then coming out of lockdown and going back into lockdown, adding on to that all of the study that I had to do for OMF. It was a pretty exhausting time. And then for me, even when COVID was over and we were finally past that hill, that's when all of the stuff was kicking off in the Church of England around prayers of love and life and faith and same-sex blessings and all of the stress of synods and all of that kind of thing, which really just wore me down physically and mentally and emotionally, myself and many other ministers. And so to go from that kind of straight to Singapore and then to Japan without any real time to reflect and have a real break was pretty exhausting. And I've been really glad of just how easily and soft this landing has been, even though things are very soon going to ramp up into a lot of work on Japanese study and delivering the internship program I'm here to help deliver. So what have I been doing? Well, I've been exercising, I've been getting used to the food, I've been exploring what it is to be here in Japan and live here and different kind of things. And it is still festival season. So in the last video you saw the Hirosaki Nebuta Matsuri, the kind of summer festival with the fan-shaped, mainly 2-dimensional floats and the chanting of Ya Yado. Well, on the Sunday of that week, actually, we went to Aomori City. Aomori City is kind of the capital of Aomori Prefecture, and we got to take part fully in their procession. Again, these don't have religious connotations, so I was wearing the traditional outfits that they wear. We hired some, and then we were doing the dance and the chants for about 2 hours following a set of floats. And the chant for there was Rase, 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 Ra, Rase, Ra, Rase, Ra. And there was a particular dance that you had to do with that, and I'll hopefully show you a clip of that right now. And so that was a really, really great time, but exhausting. My ankles and my calves were aching for days, and afterwards we went to an onsen, a Japanese hot spring public bath afterwards, just to get rid of all the sweat and the dirt before the hour or so drive home. And that in itself was an experience, shall we say, because you have to be completely nude in these public baths. There's a male and a female section, and you are completely starkers. Not something I ever really anticipated experiencing in my life. Very unique, and I'll maybe reflect on that a bit more at another time. But it was incredibly relaxing, that is for sure. And so it was great to be part of these kind of festivals, and there was a local one just here in the village of Kurugiyama on the outskirts of Hirosaki, still part of the city, but it has its own kind of village identity. We had our own little Nebuta Matsuri as well, where I was pushing the cart which had the drums and the flute players behind. But there's other kinds of festivals which Christians in good conscience generally can't take part on, and so this is also Obon season, a season of people travelling back to their family homes and giving reverence and veneration and worship to the ancestors in their family. And so here in Kurugiyama and around parts of Hirosaki, people were going outside the front of their houses and lighting little bonfires to attract the spirits of their dead ancestors to visit their home shrines rather than the places where they're normally understood to reside. And just last night here in Kurugiyama was a local shrine festival. It's been going on for a few days. There's kind of stalls out and kind of carnival style things, but they bring out the local god from the shrine, and there's all kinds of worship and good fortune omens and things associated with that, which Christians in good conscience can't take part in. And so you need a lot of discernment here in Japan around these kinds of things, both personally and as a church. But it has been good, and I've been having the chance to visit a few different churches, and I'll reflect more on that in a future session. But I think one thing which I've also noticed here has just been the heat. It has been extremely hot here in Japan. Hirosaki itself, according to NHK News, reached the highest ever temperature it's ever had on record of 39.3 degrees Celsius last Thursday. It was scorchingly hot. In fact, every day since I've been here, the mercury has been in the low 30s or even high 30s every day. We've not really seen 20s during the daytime. And that's unusual for this part of Japan. Often you have a rainy season and then a hot season, but the hot season here, the heat wave, has been lasting essentially 2 months at this point. And that's not the only kind of natural disaster and issues that Japan faces, of course. There's been a huge typhoon moving up through Japan. That's caused massive flooding and some loss of life in the more western and central parts of Japan. And the rain from that, as it's kind of skirted round the top of Japan, is actually going to hit us tomorrow, but it won't be a huge amount of rain at that point. And then there's earthquakes, which I've not experienced myself, because when they've happened, and they have happened while I've been here, I've been outside and I've not really been able to notice. And earthquakes, of course, bring typhoon, tsunamis, kind of huge waves, the famous disaster from 11 or so years ago. On the train coming back from church on Sunday, I went to somewhere called Itayanagi on the train to go and see there. There was actually this sign on the doors basically saying, in event of a tsunami, turn the latch and run away. Although if you can read the Japanese, it actually doesn't say run away, it says evacuate, and presumably to an evacuation place they would know more about. But it's been great experiencing all of this. I've been having a really good time, but I am very aware that actually things are going to start changing from next week. My language lessons start on Monday, and that'll be kind of 2 hours one-on-one every day, and then 4 hours at least self-study every day, and then some preparation for the internship program I'm helping to run, teaching in the theological aspect, the Bible study aspect. We've got a preview course of that coming up at the start of September, and I've got some stuff to prepare for that. So it's been great, but I'm expecting to be pretty exhausted in the weeks coming ahead. But excited to really get to grips with learning the Japanese language. Thank you all for your support and for your continued prayers, saints. It really does mean the world to me.